VikesNow, I am Dustin Baker. Today is the March 20th edition. Its second wave of free agency is among us. And what we had, four signings: Josh Oliver, Byron Murphy, Dean Lowry, and who am I missing here? Marcus Davenport, probably the splashiest one of them all. Those were the four big additions. But we awoke to Monday, second week of free agency, with quasi Lamar Jackson news. So I'm going to break this down if you're new to the Lamar Jackson sweepstakes. I want to define it and tell you how the Vikings now factor into it. So right after the Vikings lost to the Giants on January 15th on a 4th and 8 toss that didn't do the trick, fans were pissed, rightfully so. The team lost at home in the wild card round of the postseason, never a good look. And so one of the immediate theories was, as the Ravens were losing to the Bengals in the postseason without Lamar Jackson, Vikings fans, some of them, pivoted to, well, Kirk ain't it. Why don't the Vikings just go get Lamar Jackson? And again, this is meanwhile, while he's not playing in the postseason and his team is because he was hurt. That's been the knock on Jackson for back-to-back seasons, is he got hurt and was the team's undoing in terms of making a playoff push because 2021 he flat wasn't very good the whole season outside of one game against the Colts, and then 2022 got hurt down the stretch, and that was a wrap. Tyler Huntley and the gang couldn't get it done, and the Bengals were triumphant. But first, it was just a fan's theory. It lasted 3 or 4 days that we knew what was coming, that Lamar Jackson was going to be franchise tagged and available to the masses, all 31 other NFL teams, and the Vikings should be the team that goes and splashes into the sweepstakes, paying the man $50 million per season, just like Deshaun Watson. Well, then it cooled because I think folks realized that that's a lot of money for a run-first quarterback, and you got to pay Justin Jefferson, T.J. Hawkinson, eventually Christian Darrisaw, yada, yada. And we'll get to that shortly. But I think it kind of faded. But then on yesterday and into Monday, Jeremy Fowler from ESPN defined the Vikings as a wild card in the sweepstakes for Lamar. Now, I'm not sure if that is, I never know in these situations, if that's Fowler's personal theory. It's like, Kirk Cousins is the final year of his deal. They got to get a quarterback. Why don't they just do it now and get Lamar Jackson? Or if he has credible sourcing that says the Vikings are somewhat interested, and therefore I'm going to put it out on ESPN's network. I'm not sure which it is. I'm guessing it's the latter, because otherwise you can plop any team into the Lamar sweepstakes. But evidently, there's some sort of interest, perhaps, in the Vikings and Lamar Jackson. Now, here's how it would shake down by the scenario. So the first one involves the Jets and Aaron Rodgers, because of course it does. That man said right after the Packers lost in Week 18 to the Lions at Lambeau Field that he was not going to hold anybody hostage. He was going to make a decision in due time about retirement or trades, and then he held the team hostage for over 2 months, and here we are, still don't know what he's going to do. He goes on the Pat McAfee show each week and says, I haven't made a decision yet, but I want to play for the Jets. So they're hung up on the trade parameters. The theory goes like this. For Lamar to get in the other purple jersey is that the Jets or Rodgers would become disillusioned with the process, bow out of the sweepstakes. Rodgers either retires or has a standoff with the Packers. Good for them. But the Jets still need a quarterback. That's Zach Wilson or bust. Otherwise, almost everybody else is gone on the open market. They're up a creek. They don't have a quarterback. And Mike White isn't even there anymore. It's Flacco or Zach Wilson, or draft a guy with the 13th pick when nobody will be there of the top 4 quarterbacks. And that would theoretically lead the Jets to pick up the phone to call the Vikings about Kirk Cousins and say, what are we going to do here? Can we get Cousins from you guys? And then the Vikings would say, sure, give us your 13th overall pick, and that's that. Or some people think that's crazy, so maybe a second and a third or what have you. Then whatever trade capital you get, maybe that first rounder from the Cousins Jets hypothetical deal, you take the Vikings 23rd overall pick, the Jets first rounder, and flip it for Lamar Jackson. Boom, you have that guy, and then you're paying him his Deshaun Watson price tag, and you're set for however many years the contract is for. Right now, for the non-exclusive tag for the Ravens and Jackson is that it only takes 2 first-rounders to get the man, and the Ravens would have to decline whatever contract the other team offered. So in this circumstance, 4 years, $200 million. The Ravens have to say no thanks. We'll take the two first rounders from Team X, and Team X in this scenario is the Vikings. The other way to get this man on the team is to say, we're the hell with the Jets. We don't even need them to do this. We're just going to offer Lamar the Godfather deal and see what the Ravens think. And if the Ravens don't want to match it, then he becomes a Viking for a 2023 first rounder and a 2024 first rounder. I guess the Vikings would have to be the one team that's interested in that, because the price tag and the non-exclusive tag was announced, 2 weeks ago now? And almost in a coordinated effort, NFL general managers and owners saying, and we're not doing your bidding for you, Ravens. Just put that in your pipe and smoke it. Nobody's going to make an offer on them, which is still quite weird. But the Vikings would be the one scallywag that gets in there and says, all right, yep, we're going to do it. So that's how he would get to the Vikings. So there is a pathway, and it won't cost like 4 first rounders. It really will only cost 2, which is kind of tantalizing to get the NFL League MVP from 2019. But you have to ask yourself, regardless of whether or not Rodgers is involved, the Jets or the Vikings just do this outright, is Lamar Jackson worth it? And it's mainly an injuries question. So guys that play like him historically, Cam Newton, Randall Cunningham, Dante Culpepper to an extent, even though he didn't run anywhere near as close to Lamar, they're usually done with their careers by age 29, 30, or substantially slowed down from their peak form. Cam Newton's example, the MVP form from 2015. So you'd have Jackson's going to be 27 by the time next season ends. So you'd have this very precious 3-year window or so with Lamar and the Vikings, or whichever team he has, to make it right. Meanwhile, you're hoping that his injury woes from 2021 and 2022 vanish. He comes to the Vikings and he no longer gets hurt. He's no longer the undoing of the team in the postseason, because with a great training staff, he doesn't get hurt anymore with the Vikings. That would have to be how you look at this, especially to justify his $50 million per season that he wants. And again, the Deshaun Watson deal was the market setter here. Other question, aside from the excitement and how fun it would be, how cool it would be, is the how do you pay everyone question. I think I posed this one before a couple months ago when this theory first popped up. So Lamar's going to get his 45 to 50. Justin Jefferson's on deck for 30 to 35 per season. Christian Darrisaw next year will be paid $20 million per season. TJ Hawkinson will get, $15 million per season. We already pay Brian O'Neill $18 million, and this doesn't even take into account Danielle Hunter, who's on deck for an extension. So between Lamar, theoretically, Justin Jefferson, Christian Darrisaw, TJ Hawkinson, and Brian O'Neill, that's all offensive players, and that would be, 5 guys that take up 60% of the salary cap. Can you make a defense work with that? You'd have to nail every draft. Maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't. Get bargain bin free agents. Keep Brian Flores forever to hope that, he just squeezes every bit of talent out of these affordable guys, because everything would be allotted to the offense, which some of you will say, great, it's an offensive league. Well, I'm here to tell you that defense also matters, and if you just skim and put some dudes out there, it's going to come back to bite you. So the keynote thing, if you're convinced that injuries will no longer apply to Lamar Jackson, is how do they pay everybody? Yeah, because foremost, you have to take care of Justin Jefferson. I don't understand saying sayonara to him because Lamar Jackson's available. I wouldn't endorse it. If they're going to do anything that's anti-Cousins in the next year, I would hope it would just be a draft a rookie quarterback. And for the love of God, once since Dante Culpepper, get that pick right at quarterback. I think in the grand scheme of things, Lamar Jackson trade is unlikely, because the old adage about trades, he can go to 31 other places in the NFL. Why do you think it will be the cash-strapped Vikings, who at the moment have the least amount of cap space available in the NFL? So the team with the least amount of cap space right now, interested in the soon-to-be most expensive quarterback, those don't add up. But I guess anything's possible, especially if Jeremy Fowler is pounding the table for the Vikings as a wild card. But I think overall, generally speaking, the takeaway from this episode is that the talker is no longer just a fan theory. It has been given some substantiation by ESPN's Jeremy Fowler, and if he got some real credible hints that the Vikings are interested, then we can no longer just say, oh, that's poppycock that some guy on his couch dreamt up. There could be something there. So I'll reiterate again that this, I don't know how long Lamar Jackson's deal would be, but it would be 3 or 4 years of this window, if according to history, if he keeps taking all these hits as a running quarterback, you want to get it done, because I don't know that he'll be the Lamar Jackson that you know and love at age 30. Rarely do run-first quarterbacks get that far. Yeah, he'll be 27 by the time that 2023 ends. I think his birthday is January 7th. And the other part, kind of a footnote, because I think that this could be circumvented, is the Vikings passed the ball the third most last season per play calls. They have a former quarterback as the head coach who loves to fling the thing, pass, more pass. He did that in year 1. And then Justin Jefferson's on the team, presumably for the next 5 years or so at a very handsome price tag. How are you going to go from Lamar Jackson and the Ravens offense that runs the ball more than anybody, and then suddenly you wanted to get away from the Mike Zimmer era where they ran the ball too much? Now you're bringing in the run-first quarterback, which means you're going to run it even more than Zimmer ever did. I don't know how you'd balance that when you have Justin Jefferson on the roster. I guess the idea is that you'd have the best of both worlds, and it'd be up to O'Connell to decide when Lamar is going to run, when he's going to throw it to Jefferson. I guess it could work, but usually Lamar Jackson is the skipper of a offense that runs the ball the most in the league. The Bears vied for that title in 2023, and I think also 2022, and ultimately won, who ran the ball the most. But usually a Lamar Jackson offense is run first. Do you really want that for the Vikings? And does Kevin O'Connell want that for the Vikings? All right, that's all I got for Monday. We'll be back every day this week with more Vikings content, and Skol, baby.